Hey troops, what's going on? Dit Commando here, and today we're going to be reacting to Operation Nimrod. It was where the SES Special Forces assaulted the Iranian embassy when there was terrorists who occupied it. Okay, guys, we're all quite aware and familiar with the story, I hope. Certainly are in England anyway. It's that of a legendary story, guys, and I can't wait to share this reaction with you. It's going to be a fantastic video. Before we get into it, you know what to do. Please make sure you smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and share this video far and wide, guys, if you don't mind. Also, boom, these guys are my members, all right, above me, and yeah, they're showing support to the channel by becoming a member, guys. So please, if you do consider it, just yeah, the link will be in the description, or it'll be that little join button. You will really help the channel out. We're growing every single day. Thank you to all these wonderful individuals here. I couldn't do it without you guys, and I mean that. And that is it. Oh wait, one more thing as well. Discord, guys. If you haven't got Discord, you really need to get Discord and join our Discord server. We've got over 600 members on there. It's free, it's simple, it's easy to join. It's a big massive community that we've got there where you can chat, you can give all of your video suggestions to me, all of that good stuff, yada yada. All right, troops, so please join the Discord and all of the other social media outlets we have below. But let's just get straight into this one, troops. I hope you guys enjoy.
The date is Wednesday, the 30th of April, 1980, and 6 men are approaching the Iranian embassy in West London. The men are Iranian Arabs and members of a revolutionary group seeking the creation of an independent state in...
Wow, 1979, you kind of forget how long ago this was, guys, alright? You got some legends of the game still knocking about now. Rusty Furman, who's got his own YouTube channel, go give him a follow, guys, alright? Absolute British legends. And we're talking like, what, 24, well, over 40 years ago. Amazing, guys.
Southern Iran. With the Iranian Revolution having taken place just a year before, the nation was still in a state of turmoil, and various groups were eyeing the possibility of secession and the formation of their own sovereign nation. The Iranian government had responded to the wave of revolutionary zeal with brutal crackdowns, and 2 of the men now approaching the embassy bear the physical scars of torture at the hands of the Shah's secret police. The plan is simple. Backed by the government of Iraq, the men have been armed with pistols and submachine guns, along with a few hand grenades, all smuggled into Britain inside an Iraqi diplomatic bag. The 6 hostage takers have been emboldened by the Iranian hostage crisis, during which revolutionaries held American hostages for nearly 2 years, and now want to use the...
Wow, nearly 2 years, guys. That's absolutely insane. The backstory to this whole thing, how it went, is a lot deeper than we initially thought, guys, alright? We were only shown one side of it in terms of what was happening as they stormed the embassy, yeah? But the backstory is massive.
Leverage gained from taking hostages to secure the release of prisoners taken into custody by the Iranian Shah in their home region of Khuzestan. They plan to enter the embassy and overpower the single British guard there, then barricade themselves until the release of the prisoners and safe transport out of Britain is assured. If the British and Iranian authorities won't cooperate, well, they've come prepared to start killing hostages. It's 1130 hours as the 6 men approach the Iranian embassy in South Kensington, just inside...
But all jokes aside, guys, looking at it logically, looking at our military, and I guess the SES and stuff wasn't as well known then, if not at all, with you know, some of our Middle Eastern friends. This mission was almost a suicide mission for them. I mean, they're in Britain. We know we've got a formidable fighting force already. I don't know. It just seemed a little bit stupid. All right.
Side is Police Constable Trevor Locke of the Metropolitan Police's Diplomatic Protection Group, and the sole armed guard present in the embassy. Hidden under his jacket is a concealed Smith & Wesson .38 caliber revolver. But as the men enter, he is quickly overwhelmed and doesn't have a chance to draw his firearm. Constable Locke instead decides to cooperate as the 6 gunmen barricade the front door and start rounding up the embassy's occupants. If he can keep the gun a secret, a time may come when he can use it to good effect. The rest of the embassy's occupants are in a panic, and the 2 employees manage to climb out of a ground floor window.
Yeah, and not everyone would understand how they would feel in that situation, even a person such as himself who's trained. Has he done the right thing there or not, guys? Should he have pulled the trigger a lot earlier, or should he have concealed it, which he did do? Let me know in the chat your thoughts, yes or no.
window before the gunmen get to them. A third climbs out of a second-story window and hops across to the Ethiopian embassy next door. And a fourth, Gholam Ali Afrous, the most senior Iranian official present and the highest value hostage, tries to escape by jumping out of a second-story window, but suffers a sprained ankle and the gunmen quickly recapture him. In all, 26 hostages are herded to a second-floor room and ordered to blockade windows with any available furniture. Most of the hostages are embassy staff and Iranian nationals, but a few are British visitors or employees also working.
All right, welcome back, Max.
Side police are already arriving on scene. Unbeknownst to the hostage takers, Constable Locke had managed to send a distress signal over his radio before they took it from him. As the officers outside move to surround the building, one of the gunmen threatens them with his submachine gun, and the officers quickly pull back. Within 30 minutes, though, a blockade of the neighborhood has been established, and the Metropolitan Police's D11 unit, expert marksmen trained to eliminate threats in urban environments with precision fire, have been deployed to vantage points around the embassy. An hour later, and contact is...
So we responded pretty quick to it then, guys, okay, with everything that we had at the time.
Made with the gunman via a field telephone that's passed through one of the windows, and the leader of the group, Owan Ali Muhammad, issues their first demand: the release of 91 Arabs held in prisons in Khuzestan. If his demands are not met, he will blow up the embassy with himself and the hostages inside. Before hanging up, he tells the police that they have a deadline of noon on May 1st. In response to the crisis, the British government's emergency committee, COBRA, is assembled, made up of ministers, civil servants, and expert advisors from the police and armed forces. COBRA's job is to advise Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher on a course of action during any emergency. Contact is immediately made with the Iranian government, and the matter is
Margaret Thatcher, what's your thoughts on her then, guys? I know there's very much a mixed opinion on Margaret Thatcher in the United Kingdom for sure. What's your thoughts on her? Let me know in the comments below.
Technically an Iranian one, with the embassy being considered Iranian soil due to the Vienna Convention. The Iranian government, however, accuses both the British and American governments of sponsoring the attack in retaliation for the yet ongoing siege of the U.S. embassy in Tehran. With no cooperation from the Iranians, Thatcher decides that British law will be applied to the embassy, even if it is technically sovereign Iranian soil. Contacting the police again through the field.
Right, so she's just took the law in her own hands. She's went, no, we're dealing with it this way. She was quite a strong individual, that's for sure. So she's not messing about at all.
Phone. Owan requests a doctor for one of the hostages. Frida Mosafarain is physically unwell, and the other hostages have been lying to Owan and telling him that she's pregnant. Yet the police refuse to send a doctor, not wanting to give the gunman yet another hostage, and ultimately Owan releases Mosafarain when her condition deteriorates substantially. After securing Mosafarain, the police inform the hostages that the British and Iranian governments are working on their demands, and food is delivered as all settle in for a sleepless night. Late that night, though, two teams of Britain's Special Air Service troopers arrive on scene. The SAS...
Here we go. And this is, you know, when they really did shoot to fame in the United Kingdom, guys. And it was quite a pivotal moment for them, all right? And certainly one of the most famous operations of our memory.
Are elite military operators with their roots in World War II, when they were tasked to operate deep behind enemy lines in four-man squads to sabotage German airstrips and fuel depots. With a rise in global terrorism, though, the British government saw a need for the Specialized Counterterrorism Task Force, and thus the SAS was expanded with the formation of the Counter-Revolutionary Warfare Wing, the UK's primary anti-terrorist and anti-hijacking unit. To date, the CRW troopers have only one operation under their belt, the storming of Lufthansa Flight 181 in West Germany, when a small detachment of SAS operators were sent to assist West Germany's GSG-9 in retaking the aircraft. With no direct threats on British soil, though, the CRW wing of the SAS is facing dissolution as politicians consider whether they are truly needed or not. Today, Britain definitely needs its elite counterterrorism trooper.
Oh yes, and they are needed massively, guys. All right, there's things that they get up to that we don't know about that makes us sleep tightly in our beds every single night. All right, and sleep well. What do you think? Do we need special forces? Let me know in the comments below.
At 0330 hours the next day, one of the two SAS teams moves into the building next door to the embassy and are briefed on an immediate action plan should the worst come to pass, and the troopers need to penetrate the embassy before a proper plan can be formulated. Such a development would likely end in disaster, as the SAS troopers need the element of surprise in order to minimize the possibility of any hostages being killed by the gunmen inside. But worst comes to worst, they at least have some sort of plan can be drawn up. A few hours later, one of the gunmen orders a hostage to call the BBC's news desk, and after making contact with a reporter, Awan takes the phone himself. He identifies the group to which he belongs, the Democratic Revolutionary Front for the Liberation of Arabistan, and assures the reporter that none of the Iranian hostages will be harmed. The reporter asks to speak to some of the hostages, but Awan refuses and hangs up. As the news report of his call hits television screens around the world, the police outside quickly work to sever the telephone lines going into the embassy, leaving the gunman with just the field telephone with the police for communication. 3 of the non-Iranian hostages meanwhile decide that one of them must get out, and they decide that it should be Chris Kramer, who is already ill. Exaggerating his existing symptoms, Kramer pretends to be seriously ill, and one of the other hostages is taken to the field telephone to negotiate for a doctor. Once more, the police refuse, not willing to risk giving.
No, I wouldn't send in a doctor either, guys. A specialist person like that, that is someone who they probably be more inclined to assassinate, alright? It's a good shout not sending him in.
Giving the gunman yet another hostage to use as leverage. Eventually, at 1115 hours, the gunman release Kramer and he is rushed to a hospital, where he is met by police officers who grill him for information on the situation inside, which is immediately relayed to the waiting SAS teams. As the noon deadline approaches, the police become convinced that the gunmen lack the ability to blow up the embassy, but they persuade Awan to a new deadline of 1400 hours. They allow this new deadline to pass as well, without contacting the gunmen, and
Right, so these deadlines keep on getting pushed forward, showing Britain how, you know, do they really mean what they say? You know what I mean? Are they as serious as they say they are?
eventually, Awan calls over the field telephone, altering his demands. He now wants the British media to broadcast a statement of his grievances and for ambassadors from the 3 Arab countries to negotiate the group's safe passage out of the UK. Upon hearing the demand, Margaret Thatcher flat out refuses any negotiation.
Margaret Thatcher. It's not Margaret Thatcher, guys. I can assure you. Margaret Thatcher is her name.
For safe passage, but does not tell the gunman. Later that evening, Awan is starting to become agitated by the sounds coming from the Ethiopian embassy next door. Unbeknownst to the gunman, the sounds are those of SAS technicians covertly installing listening devices through the walls. Police Constable Locke is summoned and after taking a listen, correctly deduces the SAS's plans, but assures Awan that the sounds are nothing more than the mice in the walls. Alerted to growing suspicion by the hostage takers over their drilling, British Gas is instructed to immediately begin drilling on an adjacent road under the guise of repairing a gas main, and the SAS techs use the noise as cover. However, the gunmen grow increasingly agitated. The drilling is ordered to stop, and in response, the British Airports Authority is ordered to instruct approaching aircraft to fly over the embassy at low altitude as they come to land at Heathrow Airport. At
That is awesome. That is awesome, guys. These little things that you don't hear about or don't realize that were taking place. It's so good.
On May 2nd, the 3rd day of the siege, Awan appears at a second-floor window and demands access to the embassy's telex system, which the police have disabled along with the phone lines. The telex can be used to rapidly send text-based messages to any other connected unit in the world, and the police do not want the gunmen to have the ability to be in direct contact with the outside world. Angry, Awan then demands to speak to somebody from the BBC, and the police agree to this demand, producing Tony Crabb, the managing director of BBC Television News. Awan shouts his demands at Crabb to be broadcast over the BBC, safe passage out of the UK to be negotiated by the 3 ambassadors from Arab countries, and then informs Crabb to also include the group's political aims in his broadcast. For their part, the Foreign and Commonwealth Office contacts the embassies of Algeria, Jordan, Kuwait, Lebanon, Syria, and Qatar to ask if their ambassadors would speak to the hostage takers. But the Jordanian ambassador immediately refuses, and the rest say that they must ask their governments first. That night, the BBC
So they've left them behind, guys, so to speak. I don't think they're on board at all.
broadcasts Awan's statement, but only succeeds in angering Awan, who believes that the statement was cut short and incorrect. Next door, the embassy caretaker briefs the SAS on the physical construction of the embassy. He informs them that the main door is reinforced by a steel security door, and that the ground floor and second floor windows are fitted with armored glass. Ironically, on recommendation by the SAS themselves years ago, their plan to penetrate the embassy via the front door and ground floor windows is quickly scrapped, and alternatives are brainstormed. At 0600 hours on the 3rd of May, Awan contacts the police force over the field telephone. He is angry because of the BBC's incorrect reporting of his demands and accuses the police of deceiving him. He demands to speak with an Arab ambassador, but the police negotiator on the other end lies and says that talks are still being arranged. Awan catches on to the negotiator's delaying tactic and tells him that now the British hostages will be the last to be released. He then demands to speak to Tony Crabb again, or he will kill a hostage.
Thing is, which I don't understand, guys, is the mindset of these people. They're not going to get away with it. They're just not going to like get a plane out of here, safe passage back to their country of residence. It's just not going to happen. What must your mindset be to think like that? I don't know.
Hostage. Crabb doesn't arrive at the embassy until 1530 hours, almost 10 hours after Awan demands his presence, which angers both Awan and the police outside. Awan relays another statement to be broadcast to Crabb, threatening violence if this one is not accurately relayed, and the police agree to allow his statement to be broadcast if 2 more hostages are released. Agreeing, Awan allows the hostages to pick who will be released, and they decide.
Oh man, that's got to be hard, guys. Imagine yourself in that situation. It's got to be women first, right? What do you think about that, actually, guys? Let me know in the comments. Who goes first? Kids, women? There's no kids in this, but women, men? How would you decide? I haven't got any ideas, to be fair.
On Hayek Kanji, who is pregnant, and Ali Guil Ganzafar, picked only because his loud snoring makes it hard for the other hostages to sleep at night and irritates the terrorists. That night.
Wait. Hang on a minute. You got to be kidding me. So he's getting thinned out because he was snoring. That is the only time in history, guys, that snoring has been a positive thing.
Under the cover of darkness, the SAS assault teams reconnoiter the roof of the embassy and manage to discover a skylight, which they succeed in unlocking. Should an assault be necessary, it will be used as a point of entry, though ropes are also attached to the building's chimneys, so that the soldiers can abseil down the side of the building and gain entry through the windows if necessary. The next day, May 4th, the Foreign Office continues to hold talks with various diplomats from Arab countries, hoping to persuade at least one of them to go speak to the hostage takers. The diplomats insist that they must be able to offer the men safe passage out of the UK, as they believe this will be the only way to guarantee a peaceful outcome. But the British government is firm in stating that safe passage will not be considered under any circumstances. Doing so would only embolden future terrorists. Ultimately, the talks end in a stalemate, and no diplomat is sent to the embassy. Inside, Police Constable Locke.
Yeah, I think that's right as well. I think they made a strong decision and a good decision, guys. You set a standard and a precedent, and yeah, I appreciate that.
Has refused to remove his jacket this entire time, telling the gunman that he must maintain the appearance of a police officer for the morale of the other hostages. In truth, he does not want to give away the presence of his concealed firearm, and thus he has also refused to eat any food, fearful that if he has to use the bathroom, then the guards sent with him may catch a glimpse of the concealed gun. One of the hostages, though, is becoming increasingly feverish, and the gunmen begin to grow suspicious that the food the police are sending in has been spiked with a chemical agent. It hasn't, but in fact the police...
Thing is, though, guys, if I had a situation like this, surely, I mean, I'm just thinking logically about it. Why wouldn't you spike the food with something that's going to make them go to sleep? Like there's stuff out there, right? That's going to like make them go boom properly to sleep. I don't know. What do you think, guys? Am I getting into like special, like MI5 stuff? What? I don't know. I would. That's what I'd be doing. I'd be putting something in there, 100%.
Police had considered exactly that, even going so far as to consult a doctor. Ultimately, though, the idea is dismissed as impractical. Next door, the SAS commanders continue to refine their plans for an assault on the embassy, aided by the intelligence gathered from the surveillance devices they've successfully planted in the walls. Early in the morning of May 5th, Day 6 of the siege. Owan wakes up Constable Locke, convinced that an intruder has entered the embassy. Accompanied by a gunman, Locke is sent to investigate the building but discovers nothing. Owan, however, is growing more suspicious and summons Locke again to examine a bulge on the wall separating the Iranian embassy from the Ethiopian embassy next door. The bulge is in fact the result of the removal of bricks on the other side to allow the SAS techs to break through the wall and implant their listening devices, which weakened the wall and caused it to sag slightly. Owan is convinced that the police are planning to break through the wall, but Locke does his best to assure Owan that no assault is forthcoming. Nonetheless, the suspicious Owan moves all the male hostages to a different room down the hall, away from the bulge. With tensions mounting at 1300
so they're getting paranoid, guys, which is, you know, you would expect that anyway, wouldn't you, really?
hours, Owan calls the police through the landline and tells the police that he will kill a hostage unless he speaks to an Arab ambassador.
I can't actually believe that this stuff goes on. I mean, it has been made into a film as well, but I can't actually believe that these things happen in our world. It's crazy, man. It's crazy that this is even a real story.
In 45 minutes. The British government is still adamant that it will not allow a diplomat to offer safe passage out of Britain to the hostage takers, and thus 40 minutes later, when no ambassador has shown up, Owan calls the police back to tell them that he has taken Abbas Lavasani, the embassy's chief press officer, downstairs and is preparing to execute him. Lavasani had been a devout believer in the Iranian Revolution and a staunch supporter of the Shah. Throughout the course of the siege, he has butted heads with the hostage takers repeatedly and even provoked them. As Constable Locke would later recount, if they were going to kill a hostage, Lavasani wanted it to be him. At exactly 1345 hours,
a brave man indeed, guys. What do you think?
Lavasani got his wish, as 3 shots were heard from inside the embassy. With 1 hostage dead, the British government decides that the time to
Right, okay. Now it's just heated up.
Act is now. The SAS commander informs Home Secretary Willie Whitelaw that he should expect up to 40% casualties amongst the hostages in an assault, forcing Whitelaw to reconsider. Ultimately, though, he instructs the SAS to immediately prepare to assault the embassy at short notice, and by 1700 hours, the SAS assault teams are in position to begin an assault within 10 minutes' notice. The police, meanwhile, have recruited a local imam to speak to the gunman. The conversation, however, goes south quickly, as Owan grows increasingly agitated and suddenly 3 more gunshots are heard from inside the embassy. Owan tells the imam that another hostage has been killed and that all the rest would be killed in 30 minutes if his demands were not met. A few minutes later, Lavasani's body is dumped out the front door, but upon examination by a
That's terrible, man.
forensic pathologist, it's estimated that Lavasani had been dead for at least an hour. This leads the police to assume that a second hostage has indeed been killed, though in fact only Lavasani has been shot. The shooting while on the phone with the imam had been a bluff. Metropolitan Police Commissioner Sir David McNee immediately contacts the Home Secretary and requests approval to hand control of the operation over to the British Army, and his request is relayed to Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher, who consents. At 1907 hours, control over the operation is handed over to SAS Commander Lieutenant.
You would later have thought that a terrorist incident like this probably should have been handed over to the British military anyway. What do you think, guys? I think it should have. Let me know below.
Colonel Rose, who is authorized to begin an assault at his discretion. As police negotiators contact Owan and begin to offer various concessions in a bid to buy time, the SAS teams prepare for the assault. Split into 2 teams, red team and blue
Man, I'm so excited just watching this as well. These guys are as cool as they get.
team. One will abseil from the roof along the rear of the building and enter through the 3rd-story windows, while the other team will enter through the skylight. At 1923 hours, the go word is broadcast, and a 4-man team begins to abseil from the roof, while a second team opens the skylight to drop a stun. Yet the assault immediately goes awry, as the staff sergeant leading the abseiling team is caught up in his own rope. This delays the second team as another soldier tries to help the staff sergeant out of his rope, and in the struggle accidentally smashes a window with his foot. Inside the embassy, the sound of the breaking window alerts the gunmen, who are on the 2nd floor, and Owan and a few others move to investigate. The soldiers can't use their breaching charges on the windows anymore for fear of injuring the trapped staff sergeant, and instead kick and smash their way in through the windows. As the first 3 soldiers enter through the windows, though, a fire starts which quickly races up the curtains and out of one of the windows, severely burning the trapped staff sergeant. As a second wave of abseilers move down the side of the building, one of the men cut the staff sergeant free, who falls to the balcony below. Burnt but still able to continue the fight, he joins the rest of his men inside the embassy.
Man, that must be tough, guys. things always go wrong on this type of stuff as well. When I was in the Royal Marines, you know, you're always practicing to win, but there's things that go wrong all the time. That's why you got to practice and practice and practice. But these guys are operating at such a high level. Things will go wrong at times. It's their ability to adapt and overcome these situations that makes them very, very special indeed.
Slightly behind Red Team's assault on the rear third-floor windows, Blue Team detonates explosives on a first-floor window and quickly gains entry. One of the hostages, Sim Harris, had run into the room the Blue Team penetrated, though, and is quickly moved out of the window to safety. Inside the second floor of the embassy, Awan whirls on the attacking soldiers and raises his submachine gun, but Constable Locke tackles Awan and drags him to the floor. Still armed, Awan is then shot dead by one of the commandos. At the same time, more assault teams are entering the embassy through the rear door, blown off its hinges with breaching charges. The assault teams below clear the ground floor and the cellar without incident, while upstairs the team on the third floor exchanges fire with two of the gunmen, fatally wounding both. A third gunman produces a grenade and prepares to throw it into a group of hostages, only for Sergeant Tommy Palmer to immediately kill the gunman before he can toss the grenade. In the chaos, hostages begin to be rounded up, and within minutes all firing has ceased, yet the commandos know that not all of the hostage takers have been...
Right, here's the thing. He's calling them commandos. Is that the right terminology to use for an SES trooper? Royal Marines commandos, we were called commandos. Special boat service, they were technically commandos. Are SES troopers, are they commandos? I'm not too sure about that. Let me know in the comments.
Been eliminated. Not taking any chances, the SAS teams begin roughly moving hostages down the stairs and toward the back door of the embassy. But some of the hostages quickly identify one of the hostage takers trying to hide amongst them. His ruse is up. The hostage taker produces a grenade, and one of the soldiers immediately shoves him down a set of stairs, only to be shot dead by two other soldiers waiting at the bottom. In just 17 minutes, the raid is over, and all but one terrorist has been killed. The remaining terrorist tries to hide amongst the hostages, but is quickly identified as the hostages are all restrained in the embassy's back garden until they can be identified. For their part, the terrorists have killed one hostage and seriously wounded two others, but the operation is a major success. Iran quickly sends Britain its thanks for their actions in preserving the lives of their diplomats and declares the two dead hostages as martyrs for the Iranian Revolution. For his heroism, Police Constable Trevor Locke is awarded the George Medal, the United Kingdom's second highest civil honor, as well as being honored with the Freedom of the City of London, a rare award typically reserved for royalty or heads of state. For his tackling of Awan during the raid, he also earns a motion honoring him in the House of Commons. The SAS is widely lauded for their success in the raid, but also
Fair play to that lad as well for, you know, getting a George.
draw heavy criticism when it was revealed that the hostages had persuaded two of the gunmen to surrender, and TV footage appeared to show them throwing their weapons out a window and holding a white flag. The two SAS soldiers who had killed the men both stated during an inquest that they believed the men had been reaching for weapons before being shot, and ultimately the jury reached the verdict that the soldiers' actions were justifiable homicide. The SAS...
Let's face it, guys. These guys were terrorists prepared to kill people, and now we've got an SES soldiers up for an inquest. This is the problem with the world at the moment, alright? These were bad guys, and did they deserve to get killed in that siege? Well, the inquest said yes, but should there have even been an inquest for these soldiers? You try doing what they're doing, going into this, into an embassy. They don't know if they've got a secondary weapon system, whether they're surrendered or not. They're in a situation where they've been ordered to go in, and I don't think they should be punished for that at all.
However, drew even more heat when it was later revealed that the only surviving gunman, Fauzi Najad, had been dragged away by an SAS trooper who had planned to take him back into the building and shoot him. The soldier had reportedly only changed his mind when he was told that the raid was being broadcast on live television. Though the raid was a success, questions over the use of force employed by the SAS soldiers haunted their elite unit for years to come. SAS operators and their brethren across the world are meant to be elite instruments of surgical violence, not agents of revenge, and though facing incredible danger must still keep a calm and collected head and not
Much easier said than done. Much easier said than done. Now, I like this channel who does these videos, but the guy's starting to get on my nerves a little bit, yeah, when he's talking like that. These are special forces operators, yeah, trained to go in and do the business. They're not there to play about. You know, but guys, they're not there to play about, guys. As simple as that. Let me know what you think, because this guy's starting to get on my nerves a bit, you know. Yeah, and it didn't have a dark shadow over the SES for many years at all. These guys are legends in Great Britain. Absolute legends, every single one of them. And I have nothing but utmost respect for each and every one of them, guys. Let me know what you think in the comments.
Overuse force when it isn't warranted. The actions of Police Constable Trevor Locke, who had been armed the whole time and yet only drawn his weapon when he tackled Oman, have often been used as a comparison point to what many see as the overuse of force by the SAS troopers. In the end, though the operation was a huge success, it is a stained victory for Britain's elite Special Air Service.
Right, I've had enough listening to this guy. No, it wasn't a stained victory at all. It never was, and it's certainly not looked upon as being one in the United Kingdom at all. But that being said, guys, if you like this video, please smash the like button, share it if you want to share it, and consider subscribing, troops. If you want to become a member, boom, like these people up here, yeah, then press the join button, yeah, or the link in the description. I really would appreciate your support so we can keep on banging these videos out every single day. That was a good video, that. SAS is probably the best special forces in the world as far as I'm concerned. British Special Forces. But I might be biased. Let me know what you think, guys. Am I right? Are they the best? Who is the best? Let me know in the comments. Until next time, I'll see you again. Bye.